Money is the root of all evil is the most misunderstood saying of all time. As a third generational counselor, investor, and man of God, I'm going to explain to you why that saying is complete BS today. Please like and subscribe to this channel so I can continue to do this, and I see you guys are supporting. Thank you. But first concept I want to get into is the history of money. You will go crazy trying to figure out why the world revolves around money if you do not understand the history of money. So the history of money starts out back in old civilization, where the first way that we traded with each other was through goods. Some family had certain goods and other families had other goods. So we would a lot of the times end up trading with each other. So if you had wool and somebody else had meat, but they wanted wool, then you guys just traded products. But ultimately that turned into a community-based type of living, which was communism, where all the goods that people had together would be distributed equally among people in the different communities. This was done with food, because food was obviously something that you need to live, and water as well. But most importantly, you wouldn't think about this today living in America or any of the Western countries where land and houses were actually given, or property, shelter was given to people just because they needed a place to stay. You didn't have to pay for anything. It was all a communist way of looking at things back in the day, and that's actually how civilization started. But as civilization progressed, you ended up having people who actually needed to learn different types of skills, and due to progression of history, certain concepts were introduced, like actually paying for property. And when people started paying for property and coming up with these currencies and things of that nature, then a lot of the violence that used to happen, which back when there was trading and just communism, there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of war and cannibalism, because there wasn't enough resources for everybody. And they also had a subgroup of people in communist societies that actually didn't do anything, because they knew that you would always be provided for in that type of society. So you had a group of people who just thought that they would not work and add any value to the society because they didn't have to in order to survive. And that's when a lot of the ways that we see money in the world today came into place, when we finally started to move from a communist society into a capitalistic, more money-based society where things were distributed unequally. And if you worked and did a certain type of skill that was paid higher than another type of skill, now you have this disparity in wealth. And that's where the history of how we kind of transition through money periods actually ends up. That's where we are today, where you have the disparity in wealth that leads to people to believe things like money is the root of all evil. But let's get into the second concept. The second concept is love versus necessity. Now, obviously, this concept that money is the root of all evil is something that a lot of people derive from the Bible. I believe the chapter is in Timothy, the book of Timothy, and the saying actually says that the love of money is the root of many evils. And you have to understand love versus necessity, because obviously money is a necessity. In today's society, we need to live, and everything costs money. We're not in a communist-based society anymore, even though we do have a capitalism part in the United States and in Western countries. And we also have a social program part, which is in the US, Medicaid, and these different subsidized programs using tax dollars so that we can actually help people who are less fortunate than others. So when you look at the love of money says that you cannot love money or else you will be at risk for a lot of evils. And to understand it, you have to first understand what love is. A lot of people chop up love today as an emotion. And I really hate when people talk about love as an emotion, because an emotion is fickle. Like emotions are used for like signs that you are either doing something right or wrong. Like if I love you on the emotional sense, then it's a sign that I actually find it pleasurable to be in your presence, and that's okay. But if I love you as an action, or as it says in the Bible, love is an action. Love is the ability to care about someone despite their flaws. It's staying with somebody and continually pouring into them and caring about them despite their wrongdoings or the things they may not be perfect at. And the reality is, most people on this earth, and not most people, all people on this earth are imperfect. So the love of money is loving money no matter what. Meaning that you put money above all. You put money above people. And that's not possible. If you go back to the Bible, we talk faith-based, we go back to the Bible and we talk about how Jesus said the commandments above all is love God with all your heart and your mind. And the second commandment that was above all was love thy neighbor and treat thy neighbor as thyself. And those two things cannot happen if you love money. It's not that you don't need it, because you need it. And it says someone that is diligent in their works will see the fruits of their labor in different parts of the Bible. And those verses are not false. It's just that money cannot be loved. Loved is the action of love, not the feeling that everybody talks about. So yes, it's a necessity. Yes, it's something you need. Yes, it's something you can work towards having more of. It's not a problem. But really check yourself, and you only notice about yourself. And people can see it through your actions if you really love money more than people, or more than you value certain situations to where you will mess up a situation or a person in order to get the money. You can see it through actions. So that's the second concept. But the last concept, you need to understand why this is false, and a lot of these teachings actually lead to a lot of wrongdoings, is the size of the money supply. So the world's money supply is actually limited, and a lot of people don't look this up. You have gurus whose incentives is to make you believe that you can accomplish anything, and I do believe you can accomplish anything. Faith is very important, and you should believe that you can accomplish anything. But you also have to understand, when it comes to money and monetary value, we're talking dollars, we're talking euros, we're talking all of the money in the world. You have to understand that all of the money in the world, if it was taken out and it became dollars, because not just the money that people keep like liquid, the money that people have in real estate and stocks and all this stuff, if everything was sold and it was just money, like a cash pile of money, the entire world would all not be able to survive and have very good lives if everything was distributed properly. Like, people always say there's enough money for everybody, you know, we can collaborate and this and that. And yeah, that sounds good when you collaborating with someone whose goal is to make a lot of money. But the reality is, the more money you make, the more money someone else cannot make. There is a limited amount of money in this world, and you have to understand that if you do the research, look up on AI, how much money liquid is there in the entire world. Then ask them how much money is there completely in the entire world economy, and then divide that by the entire population, and you will see that yes, people in third world countries, people in Africa, people in all these different countries that don't make that much money, yes, they will have more money than they have now. But if you live in the US and you believe that, oh yeah, money, there's enough money for everybody, technically not, because if that was the case, then everybody would just become, the place would be communist, because you would understand that everybody can just have the money distributed equally and everybody would be fine. The reality is no. So a lot of people in the United States would make less money, way less money, and people in other countries that are really poor, they would actually make more money and they would be able to have pretty decent lives. You have to understand that capitalism was always made as a disparity system, because the disparity that you created actually created incentives for people who actually wanted to work and innovate and work hard so that they could create new things for people. So on one hand, you have a society that makes us equal, but some people get lazy and decide not to contribute at all, and there's no really reason to contribute because you know you're taken care of. And then you have a capitalist system that doesn't treat people as equals, and you have people who are really looking out for money and really money focused and trying to do whatever they can to make more of it, and they're incentivized because the only way you can make more money in a capitalist society, or at least a free market capitalist society, is by creating products and services that help people. So that was a long conversation. I nerded out a little bit getting into the whole capitalist society, but yes, a free market capitalist society is when you have no government involved. But in the United States, we don't even have that. We have governments involved in everything that we do. And that's one of the things you have to understand, is that the world is not perfect. The money is the root of all evil is definitely not a true saying. There's a lot of different things that are true about it, but there are things that you have to really listen to the nuance of in order to understand why money, the root of all evil, is really a lie. It's not. But it can contribute to some of it. And if you understand the concepts that we went over, you know that the history of money is important, love versus the necessity of money, and then also the money supply, please look that up. Actually, I'm gonna look that up right now. I'm gonna look that up right now. So if you look it up, as of 2025, the entire global money supply is $100 trillion. And if you divide that around the 8.2 billion people on Earth, everyone would only be able to get $12,195.12 per person. And these are the really uncomfortable conversations that people don't like to have, because when you include more than just like the liquid money and you start including property, that number usually goes up to somewhere around I think 400 trillion or something like that. And if you liquidate all of that stuff and divide it by everybody, that still wouldn't be a lot. It'd be like $50,000 a year for everybody in the entire world. So just really think about that. But anyway, if you like this type of content, I do have a free community where we meet once a month, accountability calls, so that we can all grow closer in our faith, family, fitness, and finance goals. It's about personal and professional development, and I would love if you're a young adult, young student, professional, entrepreneur, that you join, so that we can all hold each other accountable and grow. And I do have courses as an upsell as well. If you guys want some courses on how to run Facebook ads, content creation, stuff like that I've done in my business and also in my investor journey. So thank you guys for watching. Stay blessed. Peace.